You're listening to Common Sense and Beer, where we talk about heavy-hitting topics with a beer in hand. I'm your host, Kyle, and my co-host here,
Zach.
And we're here to talk to you today about some social media issues, technology, and putting that right into our kids' hands and brains.
Yeah, that's fun.
Well, I'd say it's not
Yeah.
so much fun, but yeah, sure. So we both have kids. We both have families. What about in your household, Zachary? Do you have phones for your kids?
No, my kids do not have phones. We will let them use our phones for different things, but like when they were real young, the whole ABC mouse thing was starting up. But we are, my daughter will tell you that we're extremely strict compared to her friends at school, but we are very careful with what they see and what they watch online. One of their big things is YouTube.
Oh yeah, YouTube's huge.
They really like YouTube, and I think, well, I'm sure we'll get into this, but YouTube is one of those things where you can go on, you can type exactly what you want to see or what you're entertained by, and boom, it comes up.
Pretty much.
And so with all of the things that come up on YouTube after, a 1 or 2 word search, it doesn't take long before, like when you're scrolling, it doesn't take long before you see something that a kid probably shouldn't be watching.
Yeah, you mean like the suggested?
Yeah. Well, you type in something along the lines of, TikTok dances.
Sure.
Because both of my daughters did dance for the last 3 years, and so they want to learn some of the dances that they see their friends doing or whatever.
Right.
So they'll, look up TikTok dances. And, within 3-4 videos, they get a woman dancing very seductively, in the camera. And so...
See, I've seen... And various family members, various other just people that I've been around, I've seen them with like young children, very young children, and they get a kick out of these little kids dancing to some of these videos and some of these songs, specifically, some of the music that's like, you do realize those lyrics probably shouldn't be being heard by ears that small, and the dance that they're doing is very, very, very inappropriate. It's almost sickening. It's like I watch it and it's just like, oh my God, it feels filthy to watch. And you're just like sitting there like, you guys think this is funny or like cute? And there's nothing wholesome about it. There's nothing moral about it. And, I see it quite often.
Yeah.
Anymore. So.
There's, in music, it doesn't necessarily need to be a church hymn for me to let my kid listen to it,
well, sure.
But there was one, what is it? It's a Taylor Swift song. Which I thought, I can trust, them to listen to Taylor Swift. But then there's a line that I caught my daughter singing, and my sister-in-law actually pointed it out to me what it meant. It was something along the lines of, you look up at me, and I can see it's the devil's eyes or something. And in the context of the song, apparently it's something along the lines of, a male looking up at you while he's performing acts,
Yeah. Well,
and it's like
T Swizzy's getting a little
and
adult rated there. Huh?
You never know too sometimes that people just do completely take it out of context. But if there's one person that sees that meaning in it, chances are
exactly, dude. If someone picked up on that meaning, then that meaning was put there. People don't just pick up on things for no reason, right?
Yeah. What's the line there?
The line is, and I scream, for whatever it's worth, I love you. Ain't that the worst thing you've ever heard? He looks up grinning like a devil.
Yeah. Because it talks about her screaming and then him looking up at her like a devil. And apparently that's just what I was told that it was meant. I don't think my daughter looks into it.
Well, that's what we hope.
But yeah, it's weird things like that. There's so much kind of broad things that your kid can look up on the internet that are so suggestive, and it's not right on the surface. It's
and just the fact that it'll bring up other results because of it being so broad.
Yes,
and you'll see a lot of stuff that's not even really that closely, just very loosely associated with it, and then it comes up and it's something that's just completely inappropriate. You can't stop it. It's just how the algorithm works.
The song was "Cruel Summer," by the way.
Cruel Summer. Yeah. And that's that's one of those things that people think of Taylor Swift as, well, at least people our age, I think of Taylor Swift back in her like country days where she was a teenager still, Maybe she's not as innocent as she once was,
Well, people do grow up.
Yeah,
I mean, look at Miley Cyrus.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah.
That was a TV show, and now, I mean, I don't know what she's up to anymore. I won't say that I really followed her at all, but I did see that she went from a show to going through a breakthrough and then going, epically insane. So that did happen.
Yeah. My kids, they're pretty good. They do try to get away with some stuff. Like I've caught my oldest daughter, who's 8 years old, almost 9. I've caught her looking at YouTube Reels, which is basically the TikTok version of YouTube.
Yeah, I had to actually get on my daughter about that too, because she was watching those. And in my household, the strict form is, I let my kids play video games. I'm a gamer, so it'd be very hypocritical of me to not allow them. That's basically the technology that they get. Video game consoles. I let them look up YouTube, like game tutorials. They're looking up Minecraft stuff, different things to do in Minecraft. Of course, they're going to get some of those videos of people doing little, adventures and, I don't know if you want to call it role playing or whatever in Minecraft.
Streamers that are
streaming,
that
do that stuff. But they get like 2 like that they can watch, And if it's video game related, it's one thing. But I'm making sure that what they're seeing isn't super inappropriate. So we've got it narrowed down, and they're pretty good about it. But yeah, I had to get on my daughter about those YouTube Reels because of the same thing with it's exactly their version of the TikTok Shorts.
Yeah, that's what it is, and they're well, one the whole TikTok and the YouTube Reels thing. I think that is just because they've realized, and don't get me wrong, I think they've made a great business off of it. I think they've tuned into the youth of today, but attention spans are so short nowadays that a lot of these kids, especially my daughter, when I've caught her, watching those YouTube Reels, I've caught some of these videos lasting more than just the first 10, 15 seconds. And she'll switch it after 10, 15 seconds. Even if it's a video that's, 30 seconds to 45 seconds, they'll switch it because they've lost interest within the first 10, 15 seconds. And so I think that is one thing that does negatively affect kids. I'm not going to say that.
There was a study I thought I read that they actually, a lot of the people, watching these short reel videos time and time again actually develop like tics and different like physical behaviors because of it. Just that constant stream. And then you hear it too. I don't know anybody that really, well, I shouldn't say that. I know a ton of people that use TikTok. And they'll just say that they'll just sit there for hours watching all these little short videos, and they've watched tons of them,
It's easy to do.
And that's what I hear. I don't partake. I think it's bad enough that America is spying on us and American businesses are spying on us. I don't want the Chinese also. I'm not going to welcome them into my home. So... Yeah. I mean, it just comes down to these different shorts and everything else. It's like, the information in these short snippets. It's exactly how you said. It's like a business model that they've captured the youth. They've done a really good job at that. And just because they did a really good job at that doesn't make it a good thing,
right?
That's it's going to have psychological consequences down the road.
One could say that that's maybe part of the reason that a more sinister reason that they would do it is to try to shorten kids' attention spans.
Sure.
I mean, that's a possibility. I'm not going to say that's exactly what they're doing. Well, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, it leads to a bunch of other things because if your brain's scattered, I mean, how many times has your brain been scattered and you just like there's so many things going on.
Oh, I mean,
you almost want to just break down and stop. You just
on this podcast, or
well, we do that too here.
Yeah.
But beneficially, we don't shut down. We keep going. I'm just saying, how much more, ill-equipped would we be for it if we were subjected to the same, propaganda waves and just just all this screen time that the youth is getting. We didn't have that problem.
Yeah.
The technology boom happened. We were kids, but it happened past the age where like we were able to still go outside and ride bikes and enjoy outside, climb trees,
Well,
build
we were in
tree
a
houses
time-
and forts in the woods. And
Yeah,
stuff.
and we were in a time where that was actively encouraged still.
Exactly.
Well, not by all, but by a lot of parents. That was actively encouraged versus staying inside staring at a screen.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got tons of flack because I loved video games. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we have Super Nintendo growing up. That's what I had.
Man, new Super Nintendo, Nintendo
Oh,
64.
man, some of those games were just so much fun. But the thing is, games nowadays, well, let's just say like a genre of game, the MMO RPG, where it's like a game that doesn't end, right? You keep playing that game.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't end.
Like
So,
are you talking like the
World
open
of
world?
Warcraft, open world games, World of Warcraft.
Okay.
Oh, what else is out there now? You
Well,
got
Grand
Final
Theft
Fantasy.
Auto.
Even Grand Theft Auto kind of became that. Or Grand Theft Auto Online kind of
Yeah.
became a weird thing. People actually role play on that game and like act as if they were cops and newspaper
I've
journalists
seen
and
that.
stuff. Have you seen that? Yeah,
Yep.
it's and you know, entertainment's entertainment. I'm not going to knock any of those things. I don't
Yep.
want to do them, but
Right.
to the person that's having an enjoyment doing them, it's fine. If you make that your life, well, you better be a streamer making a bunch of money. Otherwise, what are
Right.
you doing with your life?
Yeah, and
know?
the other thing too is bringing that to our conversation now. You know, that's not necessarily something I don't mind it. I don't mind if you are a streamer that you're going into these role playing servers and you know you have an audience that likes watching what you're doing. That's fine, do you? But I'm not. Depending on what you're doing, I'm not going to let my kids watch it just because those aren't the things that I want my kids to see.
Yeah.
You know. Nor is it how I want them to act while they're in school or out in public in general.
Right.
So, you had something you were going to interject there, Joe?
I was say it just says 27% of children said they regularly play outside of their homes compared to 71% of the baby boomer generation.
Wow.
Yeah. That's insane.
How much of that? Ooh, interesting thought. How much of that do you think in the last couple years was because of COVID? I mean, how many kids do you think
Well-
are having a hard time getting away from the screens because of COVID? Because that's really all they were allowed to do. No one wanted their kids going outside, getting
That's
this.
true.
You know, I mean, I'm not saying it's an excuse. What I'm saying
Right,
is how
right.
much of that do you think still plays a role? Because I think more and more, even post COVID, I think there's some people that just don't want their kids to get sick, and so they kind of become those helicopter parents where they're like, you know, well, you're not going to go into that ball pit because that's disgusting. You're going to get germs, and you're not going to go down that slide at the play place at McDonald's.
I think COVID really screwed because it screwed with me a little bit.
Oh, sure.
At first. And then I mean, it was so liberating the first time I just walked around a place without a mask on, and everyone else is wearing them, and I'm just like, ooh, this is stupid.
Yep. Why did I do this in the first
Yeah.
place?
How did I fall for this?
Yeah.
This is dumb. But yeah, I mean, the kids don't have that baseline. Most of the kids are seeing their parents just as freaked out as they are. How many kids? Dude, there was a ton of youth that committed suicide because of COVID shutting everything down. I mean, that's insane. To hear kids have a life that's so hard that they turn to suicide. I'm talking like preteens. Like, dude, that is so messed up.
I think we covered a little bit of that in our first episode too, where the way that some schools were handling COVID, or I should say, the way that some of the schools were forced to, conduct their classrooms over a Zoom meeting or whatever. There was no social learning with these kids, which is supposed to
Right.
be a huge benefit of public school, which is, learning along with your peers. There wasn't any of that.
No.
I mean, the most that you had was you had your classroom and you had all of the kids that were in it in little boxes. And I remember my daughter, because she started kindergarten, and I remember her. I asked her because that's what my parents used to ask me. Hey, do you have any friends in your? And she just kind of looked at me like, what? Why would I have friends? What do you mean?
Right.
I just know people that are in my class on the screen. There was none of the socializing that happened. Now, luckily, my oldest daughter, the one I'm talking about, she's a social butterfly. She'll make friends with anybody now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a reason that going back to we touched on it in our first episode. I think that's probably why there was a big boom for
homeschooling. Yeah. I'll say it. I mean, it was a big motivator for us because this is the first time I saw my son get like frustrated because he would be in the meeting and all the kids would be talking over each other and the teacher would get really upset and then she'd just mute everybody. Well, then if someone had a question, say my son has a question, and he can't get that question asked. So he's just frustrated. He's all right, well, whatever. I'll just keep going with it. And then when she calls on him and he's not doing it right because he literally threw a pencil across the room. And what grade was that? It was like third grade.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Come on.
And there was a little bit of that with my daughter too. But it was kindergarten. It was the first time she actually had any sort of organized educational, whatever. And so I didn't know how much of that was just because of the computer. I knew some of it was, but it really makes me wonder, she probably would not have had the frustrations that she had if she had been in a classroom. And she has not since. She's had problems where there's kids. She's a good kid. She'll get frustrated with kids being loud in class and stuff.
Yeah.
Because she's genuinely trying to learn.
Right.
But it's nothing like what she had when she was in kindergarten and everything was done on the computer, because that's exactly what it is.
Man.
Yeah.
A kindergartner. Can't you just okay, if kindergartners have to be on a Zoom call, can you just be all right, maybe we're just gonna just delay, at a certain point. What are you teaching a kindergartner over Zoom?
Not a whole lot. You know what they did? They plugged in YouTube videos that were good learning YouTube videos. They'd have a dance period, and then they'd open it up for, does anyone have any problems or questions with this? Blah, 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 blah. They'd have little assignments that they could do, little drawings, little writing notebooks. But here's one thing that I do think we benefit from in that period, which is on my days off, because back then I had a couple of days off during the workday.
Sure.
And especially with kindergarten, they were only meeting for the classroom 3 times every week.
Yep.
So there'd actually be a class 3 times each week, and they'd only last for maybe 4 or 5 hours. But they'd have assignments. And the benefit that I saw from some of that was that I was right there next to her. And I was able to help her with things as we kind of went. And I think that positively enforced her. I remember printing out, the teacher didn't even talk to the kids or ask them to do this, but I remember printing out the ABCs. My daughter knew the ABCs. She could sing them.
Okay.
But she couldn't visualize them. She didn't know what the shapes were and stuff.
Sure.
And so I printed out the ABCD, printed out the whole thing, and I had her sing. And, every time she said a letter, she'd point to that letter. That helped immensely. That's not something that you can necessarily do over a Zoom call.
Right.
And so it made me, as the parent, me and my wife, it made us a little bit more involved, which is one problem in public schooling, because especially in our area, because we have 20 kids to a classroom.
Sure.
The teachers can only do so much in talking with the parents and stuff. If you've got 20 to 30 kids in a classroom, and then grade school's a little bit different, but in middle school and high school, you're teaching multiple classrooms with 20 to 30 kids in them.
Yep.
It's going to be pretty tough to talk to
hectic.
every parent. Yeah. And so it was one really nice thing that did come out of that, is that me and my wife felt like we were much more involved in our child's education. And that is one reason why I've talked to my wife and we've considered doing the homeschooling thing if things worked out in that way.
Sure.
Because we both really enjoyed that, being a part of her learning.
That's good. Yeah, I'd say the same thing happened for us too. Obviously, we were a lot more involved, witnessing the kids' frustrations with having to deal with, and it's not just their technologically, they have to learn a new system, but the teachers, some of those teachers don't know how technology works either. So I mean, some of the stuff they were having a lot of trouble with. They were having a lot of issues, and especially, like I said, the teacher that would just mute all the kids because she didn't know how to individually mute people or do the thing where you call on the people and have them just so that they can talk at a time. She didn't have it set up in such a way, so obviously that's going to lead to more frustrations. I mean, Joey just pulled something up too that showed that the changing of America since the pandemic, screen time among the youth has gone up 52%.
Yeah.
And so there you go, right? I mean, it's going to give a different dependency. And I mean, I didn't know what Zoom was or Teams or anything until I didn't start using that stuff till recently.
Well, Zoom. I don't think Zoom was a big
came
thing.
out, I
yeah,
think.
it kind of came out.
Yeah.
They kind of cornered the market on that one. They saw, oh, hey, there's a need.
They sure did.
Let's do it. You know, and it worked out pretty well. I think. Don't get me wrong. These tools that came out from the pandemic, like Zoom and things like that, it makes life a little bit easier for those that have office jobs. You know, you don't have to get together face to face for a meeting anymore. And
in a remote environment for work is one thing.
Yeah.
But for learning,
right,
man,
exactly. That's where I was going with that.
Me personally, I'm not going to learn from a Zoom call, really. Like, I'm going to start spacing out. It's going to happen.
Yep.
I'm going to be off here, and you're going to be talking about something over here. And then, like, I'll click back in, and it's like, oh, I don't know what we're even talking about anymore. And it just, I just, oh, man, we're losing that face-to-face. You know, there's so much more valuable in being face-to-face with people.
Yeah, these and kids are. It's good. It's rough. It's rough to see. It's rough to see the kids' dependency on this stuff too. I know my kids. Talking from my perspective and my kids, I encourage them to go outside. I don't want them to have a dependency on it. Yeah. We don't give them cell phones just because we know what's going to happen. They're going to be on their phones
there's
in
no
their
reason.
bedroom. You know,
Yeah,
I don't want any of that unless. Well, let me finish my thought before I get into the next part. But, you know, we don't want that dependency on them where they don't even want to come and talk to mom and dad. They turn to the internet for their answers, you know, which is, we've all learned that lesson, you know, or at least we've seen it in action. But the other thing that I think is interesting about this too is there are so many tools out there to regulate what your kids are watching from your own phone. You know, so let's say you have a phone, your kid has a phone and you want to lock it down to just the content but nobody uses it really.
No.
You know, it's like, oh, it's too much work for me to do all of that. I'll just try to watch what I'll check their browser history every once in a while.
You know, and then
life happens.
Yep.
You know, you have to understand that life happens. You're not going to be able to check in on your kid's browser history every day. It's just not going to happen. And so I think that those tools are useful, and I think that they can be, I think that they should be used, but they're not being used enough. And, you know, you don't really hear about leading applications and stuff like that, like you do, you know, all these other entertainment applications that come out, like another social media or whatever, you know, these applications, no one's really looking at these when they could be, and they're very useful things that you could make sure that your kids aren't doing, you know, on this website, that website, this app, that app. But
I think they make specific phones too that you can even program that like can only do certain things. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Because I tell you what, man, my kids aren't getting phones until they're driving, and they're driving themselves to their own events, sports, and whatever else. And the phone they're gonna get, it's not going to be a smartphone.
Flip phone?
It's going to be a call text phone.
There you go. The Razor.
Yeah.
Motorola Razor. Bring it back.
I'll get them a cool flip phone if I can find one.
Yeah.
But that's what they're getting.
Here's the thing for me too. My kid's going to public school. You know, right now, I don't see the need for it just because I didn't have any need for it when I was in elementary school. Did I want one? Yeah, I wanted one, but it wasn't.
You wanted a phone?
Yeah.
You wanted a phone in elementary school?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Everyone
did.
We're
showing our age, man.
Yeah.
I didn't. I had no clue.
Yeah.
I didn't need a phone.
Yeah. I don't know. I wanted one just because I saw other older kids had them, And so, but this is back when Nokia had its brick phone that all you could do is play Snake on it and call and text.
Snake? Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
You remember
so
'em?
my first phone was a track phone where you had to buy the prepaid minutes, but I didn't get that till I was about 17, 18 years old.
Yeah. I think I got my first phone when I was a teenager and maybe I was 13. I was in middle school and the only reason I got one was because my parents' work schedule had shifted, and we were walking to and from school, which was about a quarter mile or so, which isn't that big of a deal, but it was more so we used it when we got home. We were well back when we were teenagers in middle school, though, they were way stricter on the cell phones than they are now. Way stricter.
Yeah.
You did not have
could not have a phone now.
If you had it,
you
had it
get
out,
it taken away.
you would get it taken away. It would end
Immediately.
up in the principal's hands, and the principal would be calling your parents.
Yep.
So that was my thing. Is I never broke it out. Most of the time when I used it, it was either on the walk home to try to figure out, okay, what are we doing for dinner? Blah 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 blah. And figure stuff out with my parents. But it was a prepaid phone.
Well, yeah, it's mostly to communicate with your parents.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And most of the kids, you'd get their phone numbers and you'd text them every once in a while, but it wasn't anything
need
like it
to.
is today. Yeah, you didn't need to. You saw them at school.
You saw them. Yeah,
You saw
exactly.
them at school. That was your social time. It wasn't
Interactive
over the phone.
person.
It wasn't, I need, nowadays it's, I got to show so-and-so this meme. I got to show so-and-so what I found here. No, instead of sending it to them, why don't you go talk to them?
That's true. Man.
We saw.
Well, as adults, we've become so dependent on these damn things.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's everything your whole life. You almost to this day, like a person trying to get a job. If you don't have a cell phone, how are you going to get a job? Well, if you can't pay the cell phone bill, like what, you know what I mean? It's like you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah,
Like,
it is.
It's a horrible thing that it's like a requirement, but yet not everybody has them.
Yeah.
It's just such a weird state that we're in.
It is weird.
as a country, but that's
It
just
is weird.
kind of how I personally feel about cell phones. I just feel like if you put a bunch of technology on something that not everybody has, or like if you legislate or say like this is the way it has to be, like every American's got to put this app on their phone for whatever, but not everybody's got a phone, and I understand the whole Obama phone deals, and it's like
Right.
different things that they try to do, and you can get yourself a fancy government phone. I don't know if that's still a thing. Is Obama phone still a thing?
I don't think so.
Obama phone.
I could be wrong.
I should have
but I
gotten
don't
me an
think
Obama
so.
phone, dude. I'd hang that up on the mantle as a
Right.
trophy for the worst
Yeah,
president
I know.
ever.
Honestly, here's the thing. I think that in general, the whole of technology that we're talking about, where you have a computer in your pants pocket. What did we did we find something on the Obama phone?
I just am super happy that he searched Obama phone. And there's like obamaphone.com or something. Is that what that website is?
It's obamaphone.com.
I did not know that was a thing. That made my day a little better.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Like I was saying, the computing power of these cell phones and stuff, I get that.
It's
I get
insane.
I get the convenience of it. I get that for some people it is super convenient to have all of this in the palm of your hand. I totally understand that. And I'm not going to necessarily knock the companies that have provided them, because they're cornering a market. That's
Yeah, I get it,
But but at the same time, I think the biggest problem with a lot of it is society nowadays pushes that this is the way you need to stay connected.
That's true too.
This is the way you stay connected, not face to face, not not even over the phone.
It's like a cultural thing, like a shift. Like this is the new thing. This is
Yeah.
You if you don't have one of these, you're a nobody.
yeah, and
the black mirror. If you don't have the black mirror,
Right.
Who are you? Like what's wrong with you?
And it's not even the things that are stressed nowadays to communicate between peers. It's not even encouraging phone calls, which is the main reason that we have cell phones in general.
And I have a big actual pet peeve here with text messages, because in text you cannot portray emotion. I
Nope.
understand emojis came out for that reason, but when you just type something, it can be taken like 3 or 4 different ways.
You
And
lose so much context with a text
exactly.
message.
Yep.
It's not even an email, you could argue the same thing about an email, but an email is usually
Well, it's usually like a letter.
Yeah,
right?
you
It's not
don't-
like a chat message.
Exactly,
It's,
you
it's not
don't-
supposed to be a chat message,
Right.
which a lot of people do not know email etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
We were kind of taught that because it was a newer thing that was like, this is like a letter. It's just electronic.
Right.
And now it's like everybody's just chatting in like game speak almost. Like
yeah.
GG
That's
for
exactly-
good game
right.
and like GL for good luck. Like everyone's using these little terms and it's like that's fine and dandy when you're like say in a video game and you're like doing something with a group of people or something to say these things to, but like in real world some of them it's not very professional. Let's just say that.
Right. Well, and I think part of professionalism too, people will say, "Oh, you're too worried about being professional. You're sounding professional." The reason that there is a professionalism part of your review every year is because that is the way that you are expected to communicate with others, because that's the most understood way in your line of work. That's the most understood way of communicating. And so
Well,
peop-
proper English and stuff,
Right.
It's like an expectation that's
well, and it's like
getting lost.
And we talked about how we've worked mostly blue collar,
Yeah.
jobs. A lot of times there's older people
Oh,
that we're
I have
working
no
with.
idea how the technology works.
You say GG to them, or LOL. They're like, "Oh, what's lol?
Yeah.
What's what?"
I don't know that word.
But if you spoke professionally and concisely, they would understand what you're saying. LOL is just kind of a silly little example, but you can insert other examples from there. But yeah, I think that it's not necessarily the products themselves that are causing people, all these shortened attention spans and all that. It's what they're what they're selling to the people, which is not necessarily even the product, but it's, hey, you must do this, oh, this new app came out. It's so you can directly message your friends. What if I could just call them?
Yeah.
Why don't I just call them? But that's not thought of anymore.
No, and I
So-
think it's almost getting to the point too where, like social anxiety kind of rises with this, right? The phone call, the talking on the phone with a person, talking in person with a person. These things have different levels of anxiety. And I'd say text messaging was probably the lowest level of anxiety that could ever be induced. But now we're to the point where that's like the default medium. So everyone is actually getting that anxiety level of a talking to someone person to person in a text message. And it's like, so they might not even send a text message. You know what I mean? Like they'll avoid communication.
Yep.
I feel like we're rushing towards a point where people are going to be too socially anxiety is going to run so high that they're not going to be willing to talk with their peers, and the communication that's going to suffer. It's not going to just affect. Well, it's going to affect all sorts of businesses, right? It's going to affect all businesses on a level, but it's only going to get worse unless we get this weird correction in of people that, I don't know, look past it. But the youth that's rising right now was just bombarded with propaganda, technology, and social media, and I feel like the youth, the high school people right now,
Yeah.
are actually like the correction, because you kind of see this, like there's a big shift where they're saying like high school seniors are actually a lot more conservative, for instance, than our high school seniors as millennials here. And that's a good shift you want to see. Like that's a good change, because that means that it got to that tipping point and a correction's being made almost naturally, right? The kids are like, this is stupid. Whereas the ones before them were tricked because it was newer.
Okay.
You know what
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Well, so what do you think? Do you think technology and social media right now, do you think it's inherently bad for children, or do you think, well, let's just start off with that. Do you think it's inherently bad for children?
Personally, I don't think children should be on social media at all. Yeah, I think there should be kind of like an age requirement. Personally, too, this is a hard thing to talk about because it's like, how do you can't really legislate it. They try. I mean, even like the porn websites, you have to be 18, but you only have to click a button saying, yes, I'm 18.
Right.
How many, if someone wants to access it, are they going to be willing to lie to access it?
Yes.
When no one is holding them accountable because no one's watching them over their shoulder?
Yes.
Of course.
Well, and that leads into my thought on it, which is parents need to be more responsible for their children, what their children are looking at and seeing online.
You've put a lot into perspective about the business strategy, and you can't really blame them because it's like it's an idea, it's a cornerstone of capitalism. This is how this all works. But it's 100% on the parents and the support structure around the kids to not be encouraged that that's their only medium. That's what they go to. You should be more encouraged to hang out with your family and friends in person.
I agree.
And social media today has become like I keep dropping the propaganda term because it's just a medium to deliver propaganda. It's a new form of television. I mean, television and the news agencies. This was all a thing before, and now that we have the internet and it's on such a mass scale, I mean, we're right back, but it's worse. Television was one level, and they could only get so far with it, just like radio before. Radio and before that is newspaper and articles. It could only go so far, but that was the medium to spread propaganda. And unfortunately, we have bad actors all the time that want to just take advantage of people and steer them in the wrong course. So if parents aren't watching their kids, because I can tell you, I can almost guarantee, you know what? I'm going to go on record and say 100% that the creators of these social media companies, big cell phone companies, they don't let their kids have phones. They don't let their kids get on social media. There's a reason for that.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
No, I bet you 100%. Because they know exactly what they're doing, and they know, well, maybe not their intent to be the evil person or, deliver this evil medium. Maybe it wasn't their intent, but they know that it is being used for that reason. So what are they,
Yep. Yeah.
They're going to keep making their money, but they're going to make sure that theirs aren't getting affected by it.
Right. I think that if a lot more parents had backbones, and just decided, hey, I think a lot of parents get stuck in the trap of, well, I don't want my kid to feel left out. They don't have a phone, and so I want them to have a phone.
Let your kid be left out.
Thank you.
It is good.
Thank you.
Be different.
Yes.
Don't conform.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think a lot of this does not fall on the tech industries. This specifically, where kids are addicted to their screens, addicted to the social media. That is not anybody that tells you that will refuse to take accountability for their own children's problems.
Oh yeah.
Those are the same people because again, I'm not perfect. I'm not going to catch every single time my daughter hops on YouTube Shorts, okay? But if she knows that I'm going to be upset or I'm going to be disappointed if she is looking at it, that's way more than a lot of kids these days get. A lot of their parents, they just don't care, and I'm trying to think of an example of when we were younger. I'm trying to think of an example that I could use that, maybe something along the lines of back in our day. Oh, did I just use that term? Back in our day.
Look at you.
When we were younger.
I think I just saw gray hair sprout from your head just now.
Yeah.
There it goes.
No, when we were younger, though, when we were younger,
I like
think
that one better.
Yeah, me too. When we were younger, I think one of the things that might be able to be, used in this context is some kids would let their kids be out until 9, 10 o'clock sometimes, and then they'd come get them from wherever they were at, and things like that.
Or be home by dark.
Be home by dark, right?
And
some kids like me, I was expected to help set the table for dinner and stuff, and dinner was supposed to be done at 5:30, 6 o'clock, so we could spend time as a family. Whereas some kids, I had to leave my friend's house at 4:30 to come back home and help with whatever. they were like, oh, you have to go back home. Why do you have to
Yeah.
go back home so early?
Right.
So I think there's a little bit something to that. Is
Well,
the parents have to instill those values into people, and I think there probably is a very small, not very small. I don't know what the percentage would be, but I know there's people out there that genuinely think that their kids can benefit from some of the things that they find on social media, YouTube, things like that.
maybe. I don't
But-
know what.
Well, here's the thing. Where do you draw that line? Because when kids are searching something that you believe they could learn from, all they have to do is scroll 4 or 5 videos down and boom, you're already into territory that you don't want them seeing or learning or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And that's regardless of whether you vote Republican, Democrat, whatever it is, there's going to be
there's gonna
something
be-
there's
yeah,
going to be
yeah, there's
something
gonna-
that you don't
Exactly.
agree with that you don't want your kid to watch.
Yep, no
So
matter what you do.
regardless of what your opinion is on any subject out there's going to be something that you don't want your kid to watch. So I don't know how that would necessarily be justified. And to me, just because regardless of what you believe, there's going to be something that your kid sees on that social media platform or that media platform on the internet that you don't want them to see.
No, 100%, man.
So-
That's yeah. You hit it on the head there. That was pretty
Yeah.
perfect because, yeah, it's not necessarily like okay, yeah, they can still learn from it, but you understand that the people out there understand the algorithm better than you, and they're going to bad actors, especially bad actors, are going to know it a lot better than you.
Yep.
And they've had all this time to manipulate the algorithm, and especially in the climate we live in right now. The government literally had their hands involved with censorship on the internet. The FCC just gave powers, basically over all the ISPs. They voted that in, so that's pretty cool. Just with all these different things, the Chinese government with TikTok, the American companies with Facebook and X and what else do we got? Instagram. That's all Zuckerberg's stuff. But a lot of these things stemmed from a DARPA program.
Yeah.
I mean, Facebook was what was the DARPA program? Wasn't called Facebook, but it was similar. And then as soon as Facebook came out, their project was like, oh, okay, we're done. And it's like, well, so your project was Facebook, or you just let a private sector come out and then you bought it from them, and you just didn't tell anybody.
Right.
Like
Yep.
there's the point is whether you because I can go in. I love YouTube because I can search on how to fix my car. I can
Absolutely.
search on how to change whatever on my car, how to fix it, and I can watch a video of someone doing it, a mechanic doing it.
Yep. I'm not going to sit here and crap on YouTube. There's
No.
stuff that I love to watch.
But yeah, a couple videos down, it's going to be nonsense, and it's probably going to be some sort of weird. Yeah, if you have this car, you should vote such and such way. And I'm not 100% blaming that on that specific example, but the point is that the algorithm will change, and you search the one thing, sure, you might get that. You might get 4 or 5 videos of that specific thing you search for, but then it's going to start giving you suggested things that are similar to, and people can make similar to things whatever they want. There was a whole spiel back in the day. I don't remember the year this happened. It's called Elsa Gate. Did you hear about Elsa Gate?
Mm-mm.
So it was a crazy thing where these they would, a lot of parents raise their babies with a tablet, and they just put on YouTube and they put on some sort of child, let's say Frozen,
Coco
Elsa.
Melon or
Coco
Elsa,
Melon,
yeah.
Elsa. Elsa's doing some stuff. Well, the videos start out fine. They're, Elsa's
I
going
think I know
through
what
the woods, yada, yada, yada. Well, you get about 3 or 4 videos in, and now it's some weird crap where Elsa's giving an abortion to Spider-Man.
Yep, I've seen stuff
and
like that.
It's
There's-
just crazy.
There was
And-
one. What was the name of it? Because my kids, I forget the name of it now. It was some creepy girl that had a messed up face, and she would in the middle of a video.
Yeah.
You as a parent could watch for about 5 minutes of this video, and it's something completely unrelated, and then this creepy girl comes on.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, when your parents are asleep, magical fairies come out of the stove when you turn this knob.
Yeah.
But don't light it. Don't hear any ticks. Just turn the knob, and magical fairies will come to your house because
Right.
they'll smell the, it's like,
Exactly. And yeah, what is that? What's that going to cause?
come on. And what's honestly, again, I don't want to blame this on the development of technology or social media. I don't want to blame it on that. It's just one more way for sick people to do the sick things that they want to do. And that's why parents need to be more vigilant in what their children are watching.
Yep.
Plain and simple. That's my take on it. Is honest parents like you and me, there are going to be times where kids just go off on their own and do, what they want to do, but there needs to be an expectation there set by the parents.
If
that
you didn't set them a foundation,
exactly,
then they're going to go off and do some crazy
exactly.
nonsense.
It's just like kids. When we were kids, your parents told you to be home by the time the street lights came on. If you looked over your shoulder after you caught the game-winning touchdown in your little football get-together in the neighborhood, you realize the lights come on. Well, how long have they been on? You haven't been paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are going to be upset.
Yep, your anxiety at that point is, oh crap, I've upset my parents. I better get home.
And there's so many here's the other frustrating thing too, is there's so many other parents out there that'll say, oh, well, your child is living in fear. They're afraid of you. Is that really what you want? Honestly, if it means that they're home at a decent time and they're not wandering around in the dark.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not their friend. I mean, as much as I want to be, their friend.
Yes.
I'm also their dad.
Yes. Being I'll go on and say it. I'll go and say it.
Authority, if you will.
And I'm probably going to get people that don't like this, but you are a lazy parent. You're being a lazy parent if you want to be your child's friend.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, if you're
that's
all
lazy
about
parenting.
inviting your friend, this is obviously high school ages above us, but if you're out there inviting your high school age kids' friends over for a party and you're going to facilitate a party,
Yep.
I don't know what year you think you're living in, but you need to snap out of it because all you're doing is hurting those kids. They might love it. They might think they're having a great time.
And obviously, we're talking about something different than just like a little Halloween party having friends over.
Correct. I'm talking about a high school party that gets facilitated by a parent that thinks that they're just trying to fit in and be cool with their kids, you know? And I think there was actually pushback around that in this area. I remember seeing signs, like, oh, if you host the party, like you're done for, seeing signs like that out and around. But that's a good positive reinforcement because people, just like you said, lazy. It's almost beyond lazy because it's like it starts at lazy, but then it becomes evil. Even if your intention isn't to be evil, you are setting those kids up for failure. And it's just like these are easy things to do. I mean, just making sure that they're not doing crazy stuff on the phone, on the tablet. Maybe just not giving them a phone or a tablet. Then you don't have to worry about it. And then, maybe just take them to the library. Get them addicted to books.
Yep.
Have them read books. Lots and lots of books. Because, I mean, I tell you what, man, this screen time stuff, it's just hurting them. They're not gaining anything from it. The benefit to negative ratio here, I feel like it's outweighed. You know, if you're not responsible enough, and this is us again, like the technology is not a bad thing. The fact that it's come out and it's so useful and it's so dependent. I mean, unfortunately, because of how useful it is, though, there's no reason to subject the kids to that though at an early age. Like, there's no reason whatsoever. Typing class should be where it stops.
Okay. Yeah.
As a kid,
see that.
Once you get into later middle school, high school ages types, and you're researching papers or whatever else. Yeah, okay, maybe start teaching more internet etiquette type skills and whatever else, what to watch for, what to avoid, different things like that. But that's not the focus. It's just the fact that grade school kids have phones nowadays, like that's the norm.
They've got, dude, it goes past phones too. The schools are giving them tablets, iPads, laptops that they're taking home, and they just let them look at whatever. I mean, sure, there's... they've got the networks and the built-in software to flag inappropriate content and stuff, but I mean, they're letting them take them home. They obviously encourage YouTube because that's where they get some of their curriculum from, or they use that as as examples. So,
yeah, and think about all the tax money you're paying to your education system that's just pushing on YouTube videos, pushing those onto the kids.
Sure,
that's ridiculous.
They can be useful tools, but when that becomes the entire study,
yeah. It's the
It's
entire
on
study. I mean,
YouTube?
they do like YouTube. It's kind of like when the teacher would bring in the TV into the classroom and be like, yes, watching a movie today. Yeah.
Bill Nye,
But
the science guy.
And exactly that. I mean, Bill Nye, at least you
learn
try to
something.
learn something from that, and they
Yeah.
try to make it into a class. But you know what I'm talking about, the lazy time where they'd come in hungover or whatever, and it's like they're just going
Yep.
to put on a movie for
You
you.
knew exactly what was going
Because
on.
they're
Yep.
just too busy to teach you.
You'd
right
hear
now.
the
They had a
squeaking
good
down the
time.
hallway.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, man.
Yeah, that's my take on it. Now we were presented with an interesting take on this though by Joe here, which is it's a very good point, which is every generation has had some sort of technological advancement that parents have thought oh, that's gonna rot my kid's brain, like radio,
100%,
TV,
man.
And
but
so,
you know what though, and sorry to run out, but
no, you're fine.
and that point, it's a good point, but I got to point out too, there has never been a technological jump like we've had. The
That's true.
millennial, from Gen X to millennial was enormous.
Yeah, very
to Gen
true.
Z, it's insane. Like it is all technological, like internet dependent now. I mean, it's crazy.
Very true.
The internet used to be, oh, just because it's on the internet, it must be true. It was like the famous thing to say,
Right.
like, oh,
That was
you can't trust anything on the internet. And now it's like, no, you can trust the internet, but it's only from these people that you can trust the internet.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think the point that I wanted to make with that is, yes, there always has been some sort of advancement that parents think that they're going to rot their kids' brains. Just for example, TV. It's really not all that different than what we're talking about now, because you sit a kid in front of a TV screen and watch public television even for the whole day. PBS, sure, they have some good stuff on there, but when you sit them in front of it all day,
Yep.
their only friends are Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy. I mean, I think in all those cases, whether it was radio, whether it was TV, whether it was social media, phones, computers, I think it does boil down to the parenting of the child. When we talk about parenting, when we talk about rotting kids' brains, okay, well, as a parent, if you're worried about that, okay, let other parents know that while this is a useful tool, you need to watch them. You need to watch them. That's what needs to be encouraged, is more parents being involved in their kids' lives enough to actually be concerned about what they're watching and what they're partaking in.
Yeah. So my kids played a prank on me in Minecraft. We have this little world going where we all have a house and everything
That's
else.
cool.
Yeah,
It's
it's
stuff
just
like-
little fun. We do little adventures in mining and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's stuff
just
like that.
stuff.
That's cool that's able to exist.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
So anyways, yeah. So they put this prank on me. So they sealed every crevice of my house with a concrete block.
Okay.
So I spent the entire time playing with them the other day, clearing out my house, and until I got to the point to access my mine. Right, I'm like, all right, this has got to be it. Right, this is the final wall. Nah, man, they went in and did every single door past that, in the hallways and everything you could think of. I'm just like, okay, this isn't cool, guys. So I made it a point to say, hey, you can play pranks like this on your friends. That's all good. And
Yeah.
but don't do it to your dad, man. Come on. This is messed up. So my daughter, we don't have any friends. I was like, oh, that's messed up. You do too.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, but all my friends play Roblox. I don't know if you
Okay.
ever heard of Roblox.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay. And this is where I had to go, and it's like, yeah, I know, honey, but I'm sorry. That game it is developed to like warp kids' minds. Like literally the DNC has invested so much money into Roblox. Nancy Pelosi, the Nancy Pelosi stock tracker, she put a ton of money into Roblox at one point. And it's, you get on some of these games and there's the trans flag and the LGBT flag, because they've taken the rainbow flag, God's
Okay.
flag, but corrupted God's flag. Let's
Yeah.
say that. And they're just scattered throughout the games and kind of like just placed in things. And the game Roblox itself is like, you create your own game. You can create a game. Like there's
Okay.
a Roblox Studios and then the game. So you can
Oh,
create
maybe
your
I've
own
seen
game
that,
and then
yeah.
you can play games that people have created.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one. I think I've seen people like they played hide and seek with people.
Different things. Yeah. All sorts of little
Yeah, you can make your
childish games.
Yeah,
exactly.
okay, I got
It's
you.
very, very attractive to the kids.
Okay, gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
So, and there's these points, and I have to say, it's like, I'm sorry, but that, this and that, this is why. And these aren't things that you shouldn't have to explain to a kid that's just looking for entertainment.
Right.
It's unfortunate that we live in a day and age that's so over boiling point, one way or another. You have to teach your kids politics, and you should have never had to have taught your kids politics.
Right.
Like, and at this point, you have to teach and get them ready for certain things.
100%. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, you have to get them in that frame of mind so that when they see it, they understand what it's actually about. Because these things are portrayed to trick people and manipulate and deceive. And it's really easy to manipulate, trick, and deceive a child. So that's why they're doing it.
Good point. Yeah.
And I mean, when it comes to, say, instances like abortion, well, more Democrats are aborting their kids. We can honestly all say that. I mean, that's pretty duh, right? I mean, if you're more religious, you're probably less likely to abort your child.
Right.
So, and if you're more religious, you're probably more likely to have more children.
Yeah.
That's also another
I think
thing.
that's true. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you have a lot more on the timeline. I feel like the reason why things have gotten so crazy, why we have to look at what they're looking at so much more closely, is because they understand that in a couple years they're not going to have kids. They're going to have your kids. They're going to have my kids. That's their
Good
only
point.
hope, because they don't have kids.
Right.
They need to indoctrinate the youth in order to have their revolution, to keep their power and everything else. And
I think
and everything. It's unfortunate. I really wish we just lived in a world where people just let everyone just live. It'd be nice.
Yep.
It would be so much nicer.
Yep.
I wish we lived in this fairy tale land where people just let you do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we live in a world full of bad actors. We live in a world full of evil. Right now, it's especially evil. So you just need to do the extra step of watching what your child does. Maybe just spend more time with them so they don't look for a medium that's going to propagandize them.
I think, yes, that's very good, because I think we've talked about this in other episodes too. The more you're involved in your kid's life, the more that they're going to look to you for answers rather than all of these outside sources, whether it's a friend, whether it's nowadays internet, YouTube, TikTok, whatever. I find myself, well, I'm an adult. It's a bad example, but, when my kid, okay, I'll give you an example. My daughter, just a few days ago, one of the school days, she had a tough time because she wore the same exact outfit that she wore to her grandma's funeral a few weeks back.
Okay.
And she said that for whatever reason, it just brought back memories of the funeral.
Oh, sure.
And she had a hard time with it.
I mean, that makes sense.
Right. It makes total sense. And instead of, I can see where in the way today's age is, I wouldn't be surprised if there's kids out there who don't even feel comfortable telling their parents about that and feel like they have to go to a guidance counselor or even, someone
friend.
else. Yeah, someone else. And it's really heartbreaking because one, it breaks your heart to see your kids unhappy. And I could see that she was starting to tear up when she was talking about it. And so, yeah, it was sad. And, you tell her, hey, I'm always here to listen if you want to talk, Yeah. I don't think that's said enough to people. People don't say that to their kids enough because there's so many kids out there that look to answers, whether it's through teachers or a guidance counselor, which a guidance counselor isn't necessarily a bad thing.
It's not, but they're still going to be different than you. The parent. The parent needs to be the person that's involved. It's your kid.
And there's more, and you see more and more in schools, and you see more and more in the news too, that teachers are becoming a lot of these kids' parents because their parents just don't care. And so their teacher is the only parental guidance that they get.
Right.
And
in a day and age of all these teachers getting hit up with all these rape charges and everything else on minors, I mean, is that really who you want to be pushing them towards?
Exactly.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yep.
Don't stop.
And
Just parent your kids.
Yeah. No, that's another example of lazy and irresponsible parenting.
Yeah, I get it.
So, but yeah, I like I said, getting back to the technology and everything, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Am I mad that companies have kind of, used that to make money
Turned
and
an eye
profit?
to it.
Yeah, that's the millions of things that you can do online now versus, what you could do even when we were younger. It's brilliant. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Well,
There's a lot of stuff, a lot of good things.
Let me just input this. If every capitalist was moral, nobody would hate capitalism.
Yep, exactly. No problem. And the same could be said in a perfect world. In a perfect world, some might say that socialism would work.
Well, in a perfect world, communism would work.
Yeah,
But we don't live in that
exactly.
world.
Exactly.
And a communist party is just going to be taken over by a dictator, and you're just going to have that. So
Yeah, everyone's worried about the power. It's always the power struggle or the money, which money most of the time is power in this day and age.
yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. But I really don't blame these corporations that have come out with these really cool things that we can do on our phones and computer and stuff now, but it ultimately, when we're talking about children and us not wanting them to see certain things, it boils down to the parenting, plain and simple.
Yeah, 100%. The stuff that's going to be out there, you can only do so much about, right? Realistically, this is a free country. In a free country, there's going to be good, there's going to be bad. And it's just going to be out in the open. In this country, I believe that a communist should be able to speak just as much as a neo-Nazi should be able to speak.
Yep.
Now, are their ideas going to be good? Hell no.
Nope.
They're going to be horrible. They're going to be awful. But they have the right to speak them so that the better ideas can become the law.
Yeah, absolutely. The better ideas can prevail.
Exactly.
And it's late, those types of people, the most extreme speakers and most extreme forms of free speech. Good Lord, it took me a second to get that out.
all right.
The most extreme forms of free speech, most of the time, start a conversation of those that don't believe it, and most of the time, you should be responsible for teaching people that don't understand. You should be responsible to teach those people that, hey, this is why this is not a good idea.
Yeah, 100%.
These open conversations need to happen because, again, the best way to breed a nation that doesn't know anything about anything is to just separate them. It's divided we fall, plain and simple. People get stuck in their echo chamber. They don't learn anything else, so they think that they're right 100% of the time.
Yeah, it turns into a cult like mentality.
Yeah.
Of that. Yep.
How dare you? How dare you have an opinion other than mine? Mine is correct. I'm offended.
Know my truth.
Yeah, the same stuff.
So all this stuff does tie into. It ties into everything. This is why we're probably going to bring this up on numerous of our episodes.
Sure.
Because it's a frustration point for us as people that kind of sit back and see other people do these things, and then you just like, why?
Yep. It doesn't make much sense to us because we both have the same
Right.
thought on it.
Exactly.
It doesn't make much sense to us, but when you sit back and look at it, I think there's a lot of parents out there too that feel the pressure from other parents who say, "Oh, well, I let my kids do that." There's
so many parents that are just trying to impress other parents.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's unreal.
Yep.
It's like, dude,
I
your
don't-
kids are not their kids.
I don't
Like,
ca-
why
yeah.
are you trying? What are you proving here?
Exactly. Yep. And without the different parenting styles and without the different ways people grow up, we wouldn't be what we are today. You have to have people show their kids different things, and other people will learn from those. There's one parent that does something really good and not so good at this. You learn looking at those kids. The other kids will learn those kind of principles that their parents have instilled into
if their
them.
convictions are strong enough and what they've been taught and told, and they
Right.
live it, and they'll be a role model for other kids.
Yeah.
Maybe those other kids were half thinking, yeah, maybe that's not right either.
Yep.
And then they just were given that little bit of nudge they needed because your kid had the conviction and had the foundation.
Yep. Yep.
So I'd really like to just kind of wrap this up with saying the kids are our future, and if you are going to be a lazy parent, you should have questioned having kids, but it's too late at this point. So you just need to get them off the technology, or at least monitor what they're doing.
Yep.
If you can set that foundation, it should get to the point where it really doesn't matter what they see. They get to an age where they can see it, and it don't matter because they've had that foundational set, and they'll question it instead of just thinking, "Oh, they said that on the internet. Now I believe it too."
Well, you can always have a late-term abortion.
Well, there is that.
Later.
But yeah, I mean, you'd have to go to Colorado for that. I don't know how many states do the late-term abortions. And you're talking like born abortion, right? Like,
I think that's what he was talking. That was the joke. Yeah.
So maybe in Colorado, but I don't know where else you'd go for something like that.
The only other thing that I'd like to add before we kind of close up and talk about what we're drinking today is if you're looking back on if you're a parent looking back and thinking, it's a convenience for you as a parent to just let your kids watch whatever they want to watch. If it's a convenience just to keep them occupied while you're doing something else, you really need to reconsider what you're doing, because you are probably adding to this exact problem, which is these kids are seeing things that they should not be seeing. They're probably seeing things that you would not approve of. But because it's more convenient for you to sit them down with YouTube and just carry on with whatever you're doing because it's easier, it's not the way it's supposed to be. That's going to be the worst thing for your child, because one, not only are you not involving them in what you're doing, so they're missing out on learning a skill that you already know how to do, but two, you're letting them watch something else that you have no idea what they're watching because you're too busy doing something else. You see it too often, and it's really, really disheartening, because those kids, if they were watching you, then they would be learning how to interact. At the very least, they'd be learning how to interact with other people, and they'd also be able to pick up on the skills that you're using, that you've learned.
Oh, nicely put.
So
no, I agree with that 100%. That's a great closing statement there. Now let's swing it to something a little bit more light. What are we drinking today, Zach?
So we are drinking Two Women Lager from the beautiful New Glarus Brewing Company.
We do love New Glarus Brewing Company.
Yes, we do. Well, when you can only get in one state, there's a little bit of exclusivity there that adds to the draw,
Yeah, that does make sense.
So this was your first time having this beer, wasn't it?
This is the Two Women Lager. It is absolutely amazing. I will say that I like this better than their flagship beer, the Spotted Cow.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? And I really enjoy it. It's just a base lager. It's just a lager. It's simple lager.
It's very simple, but it's so delicious. Yes, this is the beer. I think this will become my new default beer, to be honest with you.
It actually is. So the only reason I started drinking it was because I had a few from, I believe my sister-in-law. She brought some to a party, and that's all she had was the Two Women.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try some of it, and I've loved it ever since.
Well, there you go.
Spotted Cow still has a place in my heart.
Yeah, of course, it always will. I mean, Spotted Cow.
But Two Women, you can't go wrong with that either.
This is really good.
So,
no, I enjoyed it. So, that was another episode of Common Sense and Beer, where we'd like to hit the hard-hitting topics. Right, Zach?
Yep, and hopefully you'll hear some guests here in the next few episodes, and we're hoping to get that going. But we're excited. We're both very motivated, very excited to get this whole thing rolling. So keep in mind that there is a Q&A at the bottom of the episode. Even if it's something that just asks you how you thought the episode was, please, we'd love to hear your feedback.
Love to hear the feedback on the conversations for sure. So
and even if it's not just about the conversation, maybe it's a little criticism about how we're doing things, let us know. Let us know, because we can't make it better for you if we don't know how to. So
no, 100%.
So all right, well, with that,
all right, cheers.
We'll see you next time.